Welcome back to Inside City Hall. Last month, a new environmentally friendly building opened in Harlem to house low-income families and children that have aged out of the foster care system. The building is named after former Mayor David Dinkins and his wife, Joyce. The mayor is joining us tonight to talk about the project along with Paul Freitag, the senior project manager of the building, and the executive director of the Harlem Congregations for Community Improvement, Lucille McEwen. Welcome to all of you. Mr. Mayor, it's so nice to see you tonight, and so nice to see you folks as well.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
I will come to you in just one second, but Mr. Mayor, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. And first of all, is this the first building that's been named after you, and not only you, but also your lovely wife, Joyce?
It is.
It is.
It is. If there are any others, I'm not aware of them. There is a community center that Congressman Meeks has out in Far Rockaway. You know why they call it Far Rockaway?
Why?
It's far.
It is far, Mr. Mayor.
It's a long way.
It is far. It is far.
But it is. This is the first building, and I cannot tell you how pleased I am that my bride permitted me to join her in this. And let me say that Lucille, of course, is terrific. I love her. But our friend, who's gone now, Canon Frederick Williams. He was a chairman of HCCI, and he was a really dear friend. He used to have Christmas dinner with us. That was our relationship, and he continued a custom that I had with my father, when he would say grace, and I would say, I didn't understand a word you said, and he would say, I wasn't talking to you. But he was a great guy.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I know that children covering you as mayor, near and dear to your heart, nothing more important. And I guess perhaps I inherited that from you because it's a topic that's very important to me. And turning to you folks for a second, you know, as a newsman, I have to remain objective, but this is absolutely fantastic. Housing, again, housing for low-income families, and not just low-income families, but kids that are aging out of the foster care system. Now, it's what, 85 units?
85 units with 26 studio apartments for young people aging out of foster care.
26?
Yes, 26 lovely studio apartments.
Wow.
Internet ready.
Internet ready.
Yes.
Now, we were looking at some of the video just a second ago of the apartments. A garden for the residents and so on. It is absolutely beautiful. What is the exact address of the building? 263
West 153rd Street.
And who came up with this idea? I know you're very involved with the community, and the organization does an awful lot for the community. But who came up with this idea?
Well, the building was to be developed as affordable housing. And a few years ago, I served on a panel that was a commission on the prevention of homelessness. And in that, we looked at how many young people who age out of foster care end up in the homeless system within 2 to 3 years after aging out.
Within 2 to 3 years?
Yes.
Within 2 to 3 years, when they're supposed to be caught by the safety net, they end up in homeless shelters.
Yes, so to try and do a little bit, you know the story about picking up that one starfish and throwing it back in the sea. 26 units doesn't solve the problem, but it'll help address some of our young people in the Harlem community that need to be able to maintain the connections with the community that they've lived in for a number of years.
Now, the building is environmentally friendly, and Paul, I turn to you. I read that it has a gray water system. What exactly is that?
It actually doesn't have a gray water system. It has a rainwater harvesting system, and what this is, it's a system that's in connection with a green roof that has this beautiful terrace, which the residents can use and come out on as a patio. And then most of the terrace, instead of being what you think of as a asphalt black terrace, instead it's planted. And it's very beautiful, and it will actually gather the rainwater, and any water that isn't actually used by the plants is collected into rainwater harvesting tanks, which used to be called rain barrels, down on the ground. And then that water will actually be used to water the community garden, which is also on the site.
Now, environmentally friendly. What exactly does that mean?
Well, in every instance in developing the building, we look to use materials like linoleum that's linseed based versus vinyl tiles that are petroleum based. So in a number of items throughout the building, we use what was the most environmentally friendly product, which is really important for our people where we often have asthma, high levels of lead, and other problems. So this will help to make sure that this building doesn't continue those problems.
Right, and then I think another focus was from the very beginning we sought to use the most energy efficient systems in the building. We actually designed the building to have a very energy efficient facade and roof system so that we're anticipating the building will operate much more efficiently from an energy point of view than typical affordable housing. And since we all know affordable housing is very difficult to not only to build but to operate in the long run, this should greatly help HCCI in terms of running this building, and also will lower the utility bills for the tenants themselves.
Really, so it is actually going to make a difference in terms of the energy bills for the tenants?
We estimate that it should be at least 30% below what you would have in conventional affordable housing.
Wow.
Yeah, so the reduction in the energy costs, and you know, water and sewer payments are just going through the roof, and so reusing the rainwater is a great savings too.
Mr. Mayor, did you ever think that you'd be in a position where buildings, and because we all know that that as time goes on, schools will be named after you, and so on, in terms of the role that you have played in terms of history?
I'm not so sure that that's so, but let's not hasten the day, because usually they name things after people after they're gone. You know. But I want to take this opportunity, though, to mention Bill Lynch, because way back when we had what we called the Bradhurst Project.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. And it was Bill Lynch who had the wisdom to recognize the need to bring together the clergy, and he worked with HCCI, and they really, really did a wonderful, wonderful job. But it was he who had the wisdom, the vision, as it were, to help bring this about. So, as I often say, I take the credit, but it really belongs to the wonderful people with whom I worked. If we made mistakes, then that's my fault. But the things that worked well, it's people like Bill Lynch that deserve the credit for it.
Mr. Mayor, you know, in terms of, I've been fortunate to having met your wife when you were elected mayor. One of the nicest ladies one could ever meet, and I say that objectively. Very sweet person. I know that you would agree with this assessment. Yes. How does she feel about this honor? I know that because when she became First Lady of New York City, it seemed like she enjoyed reading the children and so on, but she didn't seem like she was very comfortable with the media spotlight on her. She's a very private person.
Well, she is, but she is absolutely delighted with this building. Incidentally, the name of it it has gardens in the name. David and Joyce Dinkins Gardens. And so I drive by 153rd Street every now and then so I can look up at the building and see our names up there.
And how does that make you feel?
I really do feel very good. It's such a wonderful, wonderful, splendid effort, and there are lots of names that really could be up there, and I thank you that they decided to put our names up.
And Lucille, your organization is doing remarkable work. I want you to do me a favor and just hold on for a second. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk politics a little bit with this man, and then I want to bring you two back into the conversation because this is absolutely outstanding. I want to talk about how the residents are selected and so on. Okay. And, you know, for people that believe it's about each one teach one person making it better for others. That's an example of what the organization is doing. So hold your thoughts for just 1 second. It is time for a break. When we come back, we will have more with Mayor Dinkins. We are back inside City Hall tonight talking with former Mayor David Dinkins, Paul Freitag, the developer of a new environmentally friendly building in Harlem, and Lucille McEwen, the Executive Director of Harlem Congregations for Community Improvement. As I said, I want you two to stand by for just 1 second. Trust me, this issue is near and dear to my heart. I'm coming back to it. I turn to you, Mayor Dinkins, a little bit of politics now.
But if you really want to discuss politics, you should be talking to them.
Okay. Okay, well, I will come back to them on another occasion, but right now I'd like to get your take on this. First of all, let's start with Governor Patterson. We haven't talked to you recently. You're very close to the governor's father, Basil Patterson, the so-called Gang of Four. And so, you know, we talked to Percy Sutton about 3 weeks ago. It's amazing what the four of you have gone on to achieve. You, the first African-American mayor of New York City, Congressman Rangel, first African-American chair of the all-powerful Ways and Means Committee, Basil Patterson, the father of the governor, longtime labor leader, and of course, Percy Sutton, who's gone on as a communications empire, if you will, to own inner city broadcasting and do so much more. But there's an article in today's New York Times, Mr. Mayor, that's already talking about Hillary Clinton possibly running for governor. I know you support her in the presidential race, but governor of New York State. Do you see that as a scenario that might actually come to play?
No, I don't.
Why not?
Well, I don't think that she would run against David if David is a candidate for re-election. Let me say of him, I guess the whole world knows now that he's legally blind, but yet was able to get through law school, worked in the DA's office in Queens for a while, and of course in the Senate, and became the, as he puts it, the leader of the Democrats in the Senate. He preferred that language to the minority leader. And but what you may not know is he worked with me in several campaigns. And I used to say to him, David, there's a rule in this campaign that nobody's supposed to look better or sound better than the candidate, and you violate that rule. He would introduce me on occasion, and when he got through, I had nothing to say. He was so damn articulate. He really is brilliant.
I think that's a rule in every campaign,
well,
Mr. Mayor, that no
he's
one
terrific.
sounds and looks better than the candidate.
And one other thing, I say each opportunity I get, I remind people that Basil Patterson could well have become the first black governor of this state. People forget, but he ran for lieutenant governor in a Democratic primary and won 61 out of 62 counties of New York. The only county he didn't win was Suffolk. His opponent, a man named Jerome Ambrose, who was in the Congress, was from Suffolk. And then he joined with Arthur Goldberg, because you cast one ballot, as you know, for governor and lieutenant governor in the general election. Arthur Goldberg had been the United States Secretary of Labor, United States Supreme Court Justice, United States Ambassador to the United Nations. Unfortunately, not a very good candidate. But Basil would have won. So imagine how I felt on the day that Basil put David's name in nomination for lieutenant governor in the state committee. And I'm sitting there in the first row, and I had tears in my eyes. It's a great moment. And now David is governor.
Why is it so emotional for you, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I'm close to both of them. And Basil really could have been, should have been lieutenant governor and would have become governor in the normal course. And that did not happen. And keep in mind, Arthur Eve's daughter was the candidate, was the chosen candidate. Well, I can't say chosen, but she was the candidate for lieutenant governor. And the Gang of Four,
Alicia Eve, you're referring
Alicia
to?
Eve, Percy and Basil and Charlie and I all endorsed her, and David. But she is a wonderful, gracious lady, and when Elliot Spitzer indicated he wanted David, she stepped aside and endorsed David.
But Mr. Mayor, let me go back for a second. I've known you for more than 23 years, and in many of those moments have been private conversations. And I've never seen you choke up about anything. And you've been in some tough situations as mayor. Why did you just choke up?
Well, I do when I think about that moment. It was a great moment. So you have to envision what Basil did and how close he came to becoming lieutenant governor. in a difficult circumstance. And then if you can envision the state committee meeting, and the person who put David's name in nomination was his father. And it was really a beautiful moment.
I'm just shocked, Mr. Mayor, because I've never seen you get emotional about anything.
Well, I get emotional.
And you know, it's just one thing I will reveal. There have been times in my career when I've been frustrated, and maybe something was written about me in the press that I didn't like, and couldn't say anything publicly, and I would call you up and talk to you for advice, and you would always take the call and give me advice. And I've just never, ever, ever seen you become emotional about anything. So I'm a bit stunned.
I'm frequently emotional about some things. There's certainly things dealing with children, and see, David Patterson is the same age as our son. You notice I say our son, not my son. My wife taught me that. And our son is just turned 54.
He's 54 years old.
Today.
Wow, happy birthday to him.
I will tell him. I call him Daddy's little fella.
Daddy's little fella at 54.
I do. And he does not resent that, I might add.
Mr. Mayor, would it be wrong for a fellow Democrat to challenge Governor Patterson in 2010?
No, it's not wrong. That's why we have primary contests to determine who's going to be the standard bearer for the party in the general election. But where you have an incumbent governor who I'm confident will have done a good job, I don't think that anyone's going to challenge him. Some might. I wouldn't be shocked if someone did, but I would not expect it to be Hillary Clinton.
What if it's Andrew Cuomo?
Well, I would hope that the Attorney General doesn't make that judgment. I would hope that instead he wishes to support David, because I'm confident that David will do a good job. And if so, then he deserves to be supported for another term.
I want to bring back in the folks that have been patiently waiting, because what you have done is remarkable. And Lucille, I'll turn back to you first. And I'd like, for folks that may be just joining us tonight, I want to show video again. Your organization, combined, has opened a building in Harlem for low-income families. As you said, it's only 86 apartments,
Yep.
but each step counts, as we know. And it's for low-income families, and also 26, I believe you said, of those apartments are for kids that have aged out of the foster care system.
That's right.
And it is just remarkable. How are the people selected for the apartments and the kids?
Well, as so many things in the city, when there's a limited amount, there's a lottery. I wish there was a different method, but to make sure that everybody has an equal chance, we go through a lottery system that is supervised actually by the city's housing agencies. So for this building, we received nearly 5,000 applications for those 85 units.
5,000 applications for 86 units.
85.
85 units.
And so there is a lottery process. We target 50% of those units for people who live in Community Board 10, and the rest is a citywide effort for low-income families.
And as you said, it's environmentally friendly. The people that are living in this building, as a result of that, whether you're into the environment or not, and we all should be, but even if you're not, because it's environmentally friendly, on your electric bills or so on, you're going to save 20, 30%, you said?
Right. Well, I think even more important, I feel as though the whole sort of green building movement is one that has begun to be characterized as an elitist movement. And I think that one of the really important things about this building is that it really shows that, you know, green design should be for all people. It's actually very important that it be applied to affordable housing, because of affordable housing often has populations who are impacted by health issues that can be improved by using buildings that have healthy materials and healthy ventilation systems. But beyond that, because we conceived of this building as a green building from the very beginning, we were able to do so at minimal additional cost. And I think that that is really an important lesson that I think it's going to be hard to argue that not all affordable building from now on should be green.
I turned, and the building carries the name of the first African-American mayor of New York City, David Dinkins, and his lovely wife, Joyce Dinkins. Mr. Mayor, I return to you for the final comment here. You're in better shape than most people I know. You exercise, play tennis, former United States Marine. Do you think about, and I know you're a young man, but do you ever stop and think about your legacy?
Oh yeah, I'm at work now trying to put together a book.
That's right, I heard about that.
Yeah, and it's not a book to make any money, because Lord knows it's not going to make any money, because I don't have any scandals in it or anything like that. But I want to tell, as I put it, our story. I want to talk about the wonderful work done by people like Bill Lynch and so many others in our administration. I don't want to let this show close without mentioning Jonathan Rose, because he's the co-developer, and he and there are others who helped HCCI get this job done, and to them goes the credit. It is really wonderful. I was astounded at what they've been able to do. It really is remarkable, and it's a beautiful place. You've shown some, and I'm going to come back and visit again. On when we had the ribbon cutting, I didn't get to see as much of it as I had wanted to. So Joyce and I are going to come back with your permission and take a look at it. It's really terrific.
Mr. Mayor, I close on this note, and I've gone way over our time allotment here, as I often do when you're on. But I'm going to be honest here. I recall when I was growing up, my grandmother would constantly teach me that an African-American man always had to work twice as hard to succeed in life. And did you just choke back emotion because of that, or because of your struggles that you've had to overcome in order to succeed? What was it about?
No, it wasn't about me. And Lord knows I have been so fortunate. Lots of folks have helped me. You know, we say everybody stands on somebody's shoulders. You're familiar with that. And by that we mean Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks. And I always include Percy Sutton, for me personally. So I wasn't talking about me. I'm really talking about what I think is a beautiful story of what Basil did and how much he accomplished. Think of it, 61 out of 62 counties. And then his day did not come for reasons I've already stated. And then he got the opportunity to put his son's name in nomination. And it moved me. I think it should have moved everybody.
Well, it's always nice to see you, Mr. Mayor. We look forward to seeing you in the future. And you too, thank you so much for what you're doing on behalf of the people of New York City. And I know your organization is always out there, always pushing ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It is now time for a break.